Hey, what's up, naughty community? Welcome back to My Naughty Hobby with Amber for another easy to follow crochet tutorial. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to create this chain link or diamond shaped textile using just the double crochet chains, and the standing double crochet is what we will be using in today's tutorial. This is very lightweight and dainty. I've been really into creating shawls and wraps and things like that, so if you want to follow along with my exact dimensions, I'm going to be using a 3.25 millimeter hook and some, I think this is a number two weight. This is Yarn Bee Rhapsody, and I've made a few of these little squares, and so I figured I would just use the same for the demonstration today. For those of you who don't know me, I've been a crocheter for about 15 years now. I'm part of the Crocheters Guild of America. I've participated in a few of our state fairs. I'm an instructor and a designer. I love teaching you guys, love hearing from you. Hope everybody's doing really well today. And we're going to go ahead and get started now that I see quite a few people are jumping on. I'm also going to be using a pair of scissors to fasten off, and I have a needle here for if we end up weaving ends in. All right. So in order to get this pattern to work up correctly, you're going to be working with a multiple of 12 plus 2. So in your foundation row, you're going to need, like I said, not counting the chains for turning, 12 plus 2. Let's go ahead and chain up a total of 41 for our beginning chain, because we're going to do 12 times 3, which is 36, plus 2 is 38, and then the 3 for our turn and also one of the skips. But let's get this chain taken care of. And if any of the stitches that I use in this tutorial are unfamiliar to you, I do have other videos listed on my page under the videos tab that you can check out to learn how to do these stitches. But today we're really just going to be using chains and double crochets. Always go kind of slow with the start chain. I've lost count. Everybody's being so quiet today, or my comments just aren't popping up on the screen yet. So if you're saying something and I'm not responding, I'm sorry. And if you guys are just out there being quiet, then we'll say something. Let's see here, 2, 4. $30, $31. We got 10 more chains to do. And I'm not center pulling today, so bear with me as I have to unloop my yarn. that should be 41. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit closer. Working with thread, I feel like you need to have a little bit better of a view. Hopefully that'll help it focus as well. Getting a little bit of yarn to work with here. Okay, so we have our multiple of 12 plus 2. Then we did 3 additional chains, and these first 2 chains are going to count as our first stitch, and then that next chain there is going to count as just a regular chain in the pattern. But we'll only use this technique for this foundation row, and then from here on out the beginning will be standing double crochets. So in our 6th chain from our hook, don't count the one that's already on the loop. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I believe. Just gotta look a little bit closer on my own here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this one. So in our 6th chain from our hook, this first stitch is always a little tricky. We're going to do a double crochet. And then we're going to do a double crochet into the next 9 chains for a total of 10 double crochets. There's 5. Very strange that I'm not seeing any comments. Hope it's not something that I messed up. If you guys are saying anything out there, I apologize because I can't see any comments or reactions or anything. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2 more. And also something worth mentioning about this pattern is that when we create chains where we're skipping stitches, those chains are always going to count as stitches in our next row when we work it. So I would suggest making these chains a little bit looser than maybe what you would, because we're going to be working into those, see right here, those back bumps when we come back around to keep our stitches lined up nice and working well. So you're going to skip 2 chains, and then double crochet into the next 10 stitches. Chatting with you guys is like my favorite, and I'm super bummed I'm not seeing any comments or being able, I don't know what's going on with it. 8. That should be 10. Again, chain 2. Skip the next 2 chains. And then we're going to do 10 more double crochets. Felt like I was splitting my yarn there. And on our last little section of 10 here, which this should be the last stitch for our foundation row, we should have 2 left. So we're going to chain 1 and then double crochet into our last stitch. I often talk to you guys about how our end should always match our beginning when working with like what I like to refer to as a segment. You know, it's going to be 6 different rows, and in each of these rows that we do, the beginning will always match the end. Oh, hey, look, I can, I just figured out, I swiped over, I can see your guys' comments now. I apologize if you've been asking any questions. I see the emojis or the reactions going up. Hey guys, I feel like I'm just now getting to talk to you. I don't know why my comments were on the wrong side. So just real quick, making sure that I haven't missed anything vital. Luckily I was able to figure that out. All right, so now that I know everybody is able to hear me and everything, I wanted to talk real quick. I do have a written version of this, however, I find it very confusing, and so I wanted to explain a really easy way to keep track of where we're at in this pattern. Is along on the sides where we're starting from, it's going to go in the pattern of 1, 2, 4, 6, 4, 2, 1. That's the way that you will be able to keep track. Is you're like, oh my gosh, do I need to start with, you know, the 2 double crochet? If you look on your previous row, and as we work this up, it's going to become a lot more easier to see. But I feel like this pattern specifically is easier for it's easier to learn it visually than if you were to read it in a pattern, but I will include written instructions for this example piece at the end of the tutorial. And, you know, foundation rows are always kind of confusing anyways. A little bit tricky to work into when you got that loosey-goosey chain. All right, got a little bit more yarn here. Now, we don't do chains at the end because we're always going to start with, I like to use the alternative standing double crochet. Takes down on some of the bulk, so you'll just turn your work. And because I see here, that's 1, I know that we're going to go to 2 here. So standing double crochet into the first stitch. And a standing double crochet is just a single crochet with a chain on the top to reach, excuse me, to reach the height requirements of a double crochet, which is what we're using. So now we're going to double crochet into that chain space. I told you guys we'll be working into those chain spaces, so that bump right there is where we're going to work this into. So 2 double crochet. We're going to chain 2, skip 2, and then work a double crochet into the next 6 stitches. There's 4. Here's 6. We're going to chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches here, and work 2 over each of these chains. So again, if you were working those chain stitches loosely, it's going to be a lot easier. You can also work them over the chain. I tried it out and I personally don't like the way that it looks, because if you don't use these back loops, then those double crochets are free to move around along that chain. So it can make your work, you know, not huge, make it look wonky, but it can kind of off center it. But if it's easier for you, if it's just killing your eyes trying to get into those spots, you can definitely just, you know, go over the entire chain. So from here, we'll chain 2. We're going to skip the next 2 stitches and then work 6 once again into, we'll work 1 into the next 6 stitches. There's 6. Another easy way to tell that you're on the right, you know, row is that these 6 stitches fall evenly between your stitches of 10, you know, your row of 10 double crochets. So when you do the chain 2, you should always have those 2 stitches to skip. And then again, we're always going to work stitches into our chains. So we've got 2 double crochet working into those back bumps. Just like that. I'm going to chain 2 again, skip 2, and then work a double crochet into the next 6. Here is 6. When you come to your end, if you're confused about, what it is that you need to end with, always go back to the beginning. I see that I have 2 double crochets that I started with, so it should be exactly the same. We're going to chain 2. We have our 2 stitches to skip. And then this one's the trickiest for this row here. Remember I told you that the first 2 stitches, extra stitches, were for the turn here. So this was our skip stitch. We're going to put a double crochet here. Sorry if I'm getting a little wordy with that. And then we need one more in the top of our starting turn chain. So one more right here. Kathy's asking what is the yarn that I'm using. I'm using Hobby Lobby's Yarn Bee. It's Rhapsody. So it's this gradient color changing magnificent cotton blend. I talked to you guys a lot about loving cotton and been using it a ton. All right, so go ahead and turn your work. We're going to start on our next sequence. We have 1, 2. We know that we're going to be working with 4 now. So standing double crochet in the first. I'm going to double crochet into the next stitch. And then a double crochet into the back bump of each of the chains. Should have worked that one a little looser. And if you're just jumping on, just so you guys are aware, I always post my videos to my page after they're complete so you can watch from the beginning. So 1, 2, 4. Now we're going to start our chain 2. I'm going to look down here. It looks like we're still decreasing. 10, 6. So skip 2, and then we're going to double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Skip, skip, and here. We're going to chain 2, skip the next 2, work those double crochets into the back bumps of our chains. And then also we're going to double crochet over the next 2 stitches. And also the back bumps of the chains from our previous row. One of these days I will take my own advice, work those chains a little looser. That one was pretty loose. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into the next 2, chain 2, and then we'll start those you know, building this next pillar up. I can see 2 here when we go from 2 to 6. So it's just recognizing that pattern and remembering that you're always going to be putting stitches into those back bumps of the chain or into those chain spaces. Where's my little yarn bowl? That's what I'm wondering. Hey, Roseanne, I see that you're asking about the back bump. Since I'm working the portion where we have 6 double crochets, I'm going to show you right here where the back bump of a chain is. So here's our next 2 stitches. I'm going to try to get that to focus. This one here and then the next. We want to make sure that we're putting our hook through the back bump, which is on this thread. It's kind of hard to see. Let me work this one. The next one will be easier because I worked it a little looser. So double crochet here. But right underneath that stitch, this right here is the back bump. And you'll know that that's it because it falls right underneath it. And that's where we'll be inserting our hook to place our stitch. So I've got 6 there, everything's looking even. Chain 2, skip the next 2, work a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Skipping the next 2, should have a total of 4 double crochets to work. Always working into those back bumps of the chains. Make it a little easier for you guys to see. And now with the standing double crochets, you're always going to put your last stitch into that chain 1 that you put on top of your single crochet. So far, 1, 2, 4. We're going to turn our work, do another standing double crochet. And we want a total of 6 stitches to start this row off. We've already got our first with the standing double crochet. So now we'll just work in 5 more. We're looking for a total of 6 before we start what I would consider the descent. We've been building up. There we go. Hi, Ashley. Thanks for jumping on. Because this is a multiple row sequence, I've been trying to just focus on getting the bulk of the tutorial out of the way before I chat with you guys. However, I do love chatting, but I don't like to confuse. So it's not that I'm ignoring you guys if you're saying anything. I'm trying to stay real focused. All right, so after we have our 6 done, we're going to chain 2, I did those ones loose, skip 2. I'm going to look at how our pattern's working up. So we have the 2, 6. Now I know we're going to go to 10. And we always start with those chain spaces. We're going to do a total of 10 double crochets. And if your count is on when you're doing these long rows of double crochets, like especially the one with 10, it's going to be really easy to know, when you've done enough because you're going over both of the chains. So when you've reached the end of the chains, you'll know, oh, that should be 10. Again, I feel like this is very much a pattern that's understood better visually than it is written. Going to chain 2, skip the next 2, and work in 10 more double crochets. I need to find my yarn bowl. This is driving me batty. Give me 1 second as you guys work through that. Which is always nice. Check out my sweet cat yarn bowl. My husband got that for me. I love cats. In case you didn't know. My house is so quiet. I don't know if that means my kids are being super mischievous or really super unusually good. Getting along. It's foreign. So we're working through 10 here still. And you'll know after doing your row of 10 that you're going to start on the descent, I guess, depending on how you're looking at your work after this row. We should end with 6 double crochets. Again, if our count is accurate and on, there's 3, 4, 5, and 6. Don't forget your last stitch there, working into the standing double crochet. Wish I would have learned that years ago, that technique, by the way. Hi, Helen. So far our piece should be looking like this. Your zigzags should be adding up. Now we're going to start on the descent. So 1, 2, 4, 6. We'll turn our work. Work a standing double crochet. And then 3 double crochet. Chain 2, always going to chain 2, always going to skip 2, always going to go into both of the chains. Look at me trying to wrap without crochet over here. That is one of the ways that I kind of, you know, a method that I use to remember patterns is kind of chanting them in my head. So it is kind of like, you know, rapping about hooking in my brain. So looking here, and I know that our last segment had 10. I did my 2 double crochet. I don't want to do another 10 over this row. So we're going to skip 2, or excuse me, chain 2 and skip 2, and then work the 6 double crochets. Making sure that there's 2 there in the beginning that we skipped. And there will be 2 at the end. Chain 2, skip 2. Oh man, maybe I didn't work it as tight as I thought. But maybe I did. Chaining 2, skipping 2, working a double crochet into the next 6. There's 5 and 6. Chain 2, skip 2, double crochet into those back bump chain spaces. And looking at our beginning, since we started with 4, we should end with 4. Chain 2, skip 2. And I have 4 stitches left to work into. Turn your work. Hi, Diane. Yeah, even my yarn bowl isn't working out because I decided to go outside of the skein instead of my center pole. I'm really irked that, you know, more yarn companies haven't gotten on board with having a very conveniently placed tab for center pulling. All right, so looking at our design, it's becoming easier and easier to see what we're going to start and finish with. Based off of our previous row, I know we're on the descent. I can look underneath the row that we started with 4 and see that there's 2. So we'll standing double crochet in the first stitch, double crochet into the next. Again, we're chaining 2 and skipping 2. Looking, we're going to start building. We're going to start building this one back up. So we're going to need 6 double crochets. Once again, not really having to keep track of how many stitches, because you'll know once you get to the second set of chains that that little portion is over. We're at 4. 5 and 6. So this little part we're building up. Looking at this one though, where we had 10 stitches, it's looking weird to me, almost like I had an extra stitch, but I don't. That we're going to want 2 for this one so it matches. See, we had 2, 6, 10, 6, skip 2, and work 2 double crochet after you chain. Don't forget to chain. Shirley's asking, what would you make with this stitch? Personally, I'm thinking about, I've made a few of these squares, and this is a very gradual changing yarn, so I'll show you guys just real quick. I was thinking about doing like a gradual change blanket, but doing a very bright border around these reds, probably using the yellow. I think it would make a really nice like summer bag or market bag. If you do a lot of, fresh produce, it would allow your fruit and veggies to breathe. I love the feel of cotton though, so I would make a whole blanket out of the same material personally. It would also make a wonderful shawl or wrap. That's my favorite thing to make with super fine yarn or lightweight. I believe this would be considered a number 2. Skipping over 2, working a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. We chain 2, skip 2, now we're going to work a double crochet into the next 6. We'll take a quick glimpse at our beginning. We started with 2 double crochet, chain 2, skip 2. Now we're going to double crochet into the last 2 stitches. So our end matches our beginning. Fighting with that single or that chain there. There we go. All right, 1, 2, 4, 6, 4, 2. We're down to 1. Now this one's slightly different. We're going to do the standing double crochet. So a single with a chain, but now we want to do one more chain for this one here. Looking at our work, we see that we have 6 in the previous and we're building up. So now we're going to do 10 double crochets, starting with that back bump of the first chain of our previous row. So it should look like that, beginning at least. And what we've actually just created here is, or what we're in the process of working on, is the very first row, the foundation row. So this would be considered row 1 of the sequence. The only difference is we're not using chains. We are using a standing double crochet. But you can't really use that in the beginning of your work. So I've got 2, 3, 7, 9 and 10 here. It's pretty easy to be able to keep track of where you're at with the pattern. If you start feeling confused, if you just put your work down and you look at the way that it's set up. You know, we have, I guess, what I'll consider like a unit or a full shape built. 2, 4, 6, 4, 2. You come over here, 2, 6, 10, 6, 2. That's the way that it should always look. 2, 6, 10, 6, 2. So that's what we're building on right here. You know that we're always going to be working into the chain spaces. So because 2, 6, we need 10 double crochet running across this line here. Those ones will be a breeze to work into. Skipping the next 2. Now we'll just work a double crochet until we reach that second set of chains. We'll know we have our required amount. And while working out a few of these blocks yesterday, before doing the tutorial for you guys, it's really easy to see when you make a mistake. And I know that because I made a few where, you know, instead of building back down, I went the opposite way. And just by like glancing at it, when you make that mistake, it's just easy to spot. So I don't see this being a pattern where a mistake is going to go unnoticed and you'll have to frog out like 20 rows. You know, chances are you'll only have to frog out maybe 1 row, which can still be tedious, especially if you start with a huge number of chains if you're making a blanket or something. So chain 2, skip 2, same thing. And because we worked with the multiple of 12 times 3, which was 36, we should have 3 sections or 3 full units for this specific pattern or this specific example piece. Okay, and just like our beginning where we did just the standing double crochet, don't forget the extra chain. So at the end of your work, you're going to chain 1. A little bit difficult to see, but we're skipping this stitch here. Chain 1, skip 1, and then work your last double crochet into your standing double crochet. So as you can see, you have your 2 units here, but we will have a total of 3 once we complete the next couple rows. Oh, thanks, Brenda. Yeah, I definitely, I'm not a perfect crocheter, and, you know, instead of trying to hide the mistakes that I make, I figure I'm not the only one making these mistakes, and maybe you out there watching can learn for how, you know, how I remedy or take care of those little issues that may arise. I want to make sure that I'm an approachable person too. If you guys do have questions or get stuck, or if you purchase a pattern from me, I want you to know that you can always come to me if you run into an issue, and I'll help walk you through it or create a video, or, you know, even if it's not one of my patterns, because I know the frustration that can come with not understanding something and just needing a little extra guidance. Since we've got all of our rows done now, I'll probably be a little bit more chatty with you guys, but that also means that I might make a few more mistakes because I get chatty and, you know, don't pay attention to what I'm doing, and you know the rest. This isn't your first rodeo over here at my naughty hobby, which I'm happy that you guys are here. I see I have quite a few viewers today, which is really exciting. This is your first time watching one of my videos. I'd love to hear from you, what you think so far. Again, standing double crochet, you still work into that chain spot, that chain space when you just do the 1. And that'll be easy to tell too after you've done the 1, because we go 1, 2, 4, 6, 4, 2, 1. It starts over. You can see I'm on the descent now for our second group of objects, however you want to call them. Yeah, I always post my videos to my page after they're complete. Honestly, though, I think some of the best material often goes unheard, because I like to get through the beginning of the, you know, get through the whole tutorial before I get real chatty with you guys. And I think that there's a lot of people who watch and then don't realize that my tips and tricks come out in the end. And I know that that information is pretty valuable. Aw, thanks, Hedda. And I hope that I said your name right. So looking at mine here, I know that all of these are going to be decreases. So just skipping, chaining and skipping over those two. So again, we don't want to do another row of 10. So after I did those two over the chain like we always do, chaining two, skipping those first two, and now we'll work 6 double crochets. You're welcome, Jerry. Thanks, Anita. Happy that you're here watching today. This was a much needed break for me from everything else that is on social media right now. I'm an empath, and it's like my heart can't handle some of the ugliness that we're facing here in America. I'm not sure where you guys are watching from. I'm broadcasting from North Dakota in America, and things have been hard, so I'm happy to be spending some time with you guys today, doing something that I love, and hopefully that you love as well. Our little segments are looking pretty dang good. You can start to see those X's coming to life. I figured those looked like chain link fence or diamonds. I also see the diamonds in the middle there. Okay, skipping the next two, making sure we work one into that chain space. So our end matches our beginning. Probably just work out a couple more rows with you guys. If you do follow along with this tutorial and you make a little something, I'd love to see your creation. So just as a little bit of a reminder, if you get lost in the pattern, remember that it should always go in this pattern of 1, 2, 4, 6, 4, 2, 1. So I see I did 2 in the last. I can come down to this row and say, oh, I should start with 4. That's, what I started with down here, and it should go build up and then descend, build up. So right now we're building up. We need a total of 4 in the beginning of this row. And it kind of helps too if you remember that you're going to be working stitches into chains no matter what. You will always work a stitch into the chain. We're building up on our sides, but on our actual objects, we are on the descent. So chain 2, skip 2, and then it's just going to be a double crochet into the next 2 stitches. Sorry, I'm going to try to bring it a little bit more into sight, not so much at the top of the screen. See, I'm working with 2, so I'm building this one up. If we always double crochet to our chain spaces, that would be the only thing that would make sense. So we'll double crochet over the next 2, and then also over the chain spaces. See how nice those are worked when you work your chains a little bit looser? So I'm going loose with the chains, but consistent tension. The decline with this one. So just 2 double crochet. Keep that nice and centered. Elisa says she has a lot of yarn, so she needs to learn crochet. You are in the right place, my friend. I'm happy to have you here. I'll show you all kinds of fun stuff to do with that yarn. Again, I see I'm building this one up. I need to like place an X or something on my board so I know exactly where to hold my hands. I've got drifty hands. Stay in the center. Heidi's asking what is the brand of yarn I'm using. This is from Hobby Lobby. And the brand is Yarn Bee. And this is Rhapsody. I don't have the label. The label is MIA. But the type is called Rhapsody. Again, we always skip these last 2 because we're going to be working over those chain spaces or into the chains themselves. And we do have 2 stitches here left. Don't forget about your standing double crochet. I think a lot of people might get confused if you're pretty new and know not to look. You know, even to my eye, it would look like, oh, well, I've got all of my stitches done. Make sure you don't forget that last one. Grab a little drink of water. I really love how this yarn works up though, and I want to say this one's called like Poppy or something. Not a huge fan of that though. This is one of my least favorite things about this yarn is you run into little snags like this, and I'm not sure if that is from where they added on a new color or more of a new color or more of this yellow. But I have found that it makes my work, I mean, it adds like an ugly little splotch. It reminds me of like an ink, you know, an ink spot when a pen bleeds out or something like that. Bothers me. And this, the Rhapsody yarn is actually, I don't know, it's pretty spendy. I want to say it's like 10. It's either 10 or $12 for a skein of it. So when I see stuff like that, and I unwrapped it a bit so you could see it more, to me, it just sticks out like a sore thumb on my work. Do better. Do better, yarn places. Yarn spinners. Yeah, you're welcome, Heidi. So 1, 2, building up. I know that we're going to be needing 6 for our next row. This would be considered 2. Stitch 2, that is. There should be 6 here. Just going to double check. 2, 4, 6. Perfect. I think here we're starting a new object or shape, a new triangle, not triangle, diamond, because our last row, oh, nope, actually we're doing 10. So I see here the last one was 6. Now we're going to work a total of 10 double crochets. I really apologize if you guys can hear my stomach growling. Obviously, it's about time for lunch over here. It always happens to me. But how embarrassing if you guys can hear my stomach over here just straight growling. Awkward. Silence it with some water, hopefully. Like my cats or my kid is probably gonna like really start acting up. Like, Frick me! Okay, so each one of these ones for this row, we're just doing the, double crocheting over the 10. And if you're just jumping on and you're like, wow, this is too fast to really follow, I like to mention to you guys that I always go super slow in the beginning of the video, so it's easy to follow. But once we get the gist of the pattern down and we're just doing repeats, I do go a little bit quicker. Because you're jumping onto the tail end of this tutorial. Happy you're here, but this is usually when I like to chat with anybody who's on. and more mistakes are made. So if this is your first time and you're just jumping on, just back out now. Follow me for later. I'm not trying to make a fool of myself. Oh well, if I do though. Life goes on, right? Let's look at the beginning. So we should be ending with 6 double crochets. I've got the 2 there. Looks like I counted correctly again. Yay me. Doesn't always happen that way. And of course that standing double crochet. So we built up 1, 2, 4, 6. We're going to turn our work, and now we're going to start on, you know, the descent. If you need to, go back and look at your previous rows of how they were worked before. From the edge here, just going back. Okay, so 4, 6, 4, 2, 1, 2, 4, 6, 4. That standing double crochet counts as our first. You can kind of hear my kids starting to really rev up. Okay, I don't want to do another row of 10. So we're starting the descent on the next diamond here. Skip over 2 and then work a double crochet into the next 6. Two, 4, 5. Thanks, Marianne. I love it when my top fans jump on and say something. That always feels really nice. Happy to have your support and, you know, always being part of the conversation. Makes it a little bit easier for me. Sometimes I get so dang nervous before I go live and chat with you guys. It's dumb. Always makes it easier on the nerves though when I see that top fan, which I thought Facebook had gotten rid of that. So maybe, I don't know, maybe like some of my top fans weren't checking in on previous videos or something. I don't know. I'm just trying to say thank you for being here, Mary, and showing support and love. Because our last row had 10 double crochets. Keeping in mind that I'm only going to work 6 over these like long stretches. Best way to look at them. Ooh. Excuse me, sorry. Am I gonna sneeze again? I promise it's not the Rona, just allergies. Everything's finally blooming in North Dakota. I suffer from a little bit of allergies. So I've got 4 there. All right, since we're coming to our end here, we started with 4. We're going to end with 4 by skipping the last 2, or skipping the next 2, and working those stitches. And if you haven't already started to recognize your pattern, you will. I really feel like this is, something that's a lot easier explained and demonstrated when you see it. At least that's the way that my brain, because even my written directions that I wrote down, I was like, man, this is going to confuse somebody. I'm always requested for the written versions, so when I can, I try to put them up, read them, at your own, I don't know, your own discretion. I don't want to confuse you more if you're feeling confused. That's why I avoid written. I think somebody had mentioned or commented on my nails. I think I should tell you guys, I showed my grandma the other day. I was video chatting with her. She lives in Oregon, and I was like, Grandma, I'm loving these nails. It feels like summer. And she was like, oh, honey, those do not match your skin tone. And I was like, well, I love it, and yellow makes me feel happy. So here we are with bright yellow nails. And I love them, even if they are a little bit smudged. They're bright and happy. Next week, they probably will be pink, though. Gotta keep it matching with my tutorials, right? We're building this one up. So I know I'm gonna need a total of 6 across here. Aw, thanks, Lisa. I hope you have a great day as well. You're another one that I can always count on to be on and encouraging my work, so thank you. Okay, so we started building that one. We're on the descent here, so skip 2, and then just work double crochet into the next 2. Hey Faye, thanks for watching today, being part of the conversation. Always love hearing that people are learning from my videos. Trying to build up your hooker skills, your confidence. And if I'm being completely honest, I did kind of plan like the nails to match my yarn. Even though they're not exactly the same, it's pretty close. Matchy colors makes me happy as well. So when you see me stretch my work out like that, it's just, I'm basically checking myself, making sure that, I'm building up and decreasing without having to try to memorize counts or anything like that. Skipping 2. So look for the patterns and the rhythms as you're working this up. I guess another tip with working on or into the back bumps of your chains is you can't really tell because I try to keep my work up pretty straight, but I hold tension on my work by using this finger in my palm here, where you will see me, you know, maybe even put a finger through the hole here to keep my work tight. When you go to work into your chain spaces here, I let go of that tension because it makes those back bumps a lot easier to work into opposed if they're pulled tight like this. So I'll just loosen up on my work, especially if I've worked those chains too tight, because it makes it a lot simpler or a lot easier to get into those stitches opposed to here stretched out. And then I might even bunch my work to make it even a little bit more accessible. Everything's looking even so far. Getting a lot more of that orangish yellow. Skipping 2. We've got 2 stitches to work into. I totally agree, Diane. Trying to spread the love over here. I know I'm coming up to that very much. Maybe I wasn't. Pulled too soon. Got a nightmare happening with the yarn now. Don't even want to know. So is there anybody out there who has a suggestion for the next tutorial that I do? I've been kind of looking around for different combos and stuff, but if there is a technique that you would love to learn and you haven't found a tutorial that works for you, please drop it in the comments and let me know what it is. Give me something to do. We're supposed to have terrible thunderstorms the next few days, so I don't know how much we'll be able to be out and about because the storms get a little wild. Love them, but you know, there's not a whole lot of stuff the lightning can ground to, so I don't like to make my kids and I moving targets. We're on the descent there. So this was that funky row where we just do the standing double crochet and the chain 1. 1, 2, 4, 6, 4, 2, 1. Did I only do the one? Okay, so we're doing another build up here. Last one was 6, so I know I'm going all the way through to the next set of chains. Della has said how to do the iris stitch, and I don't know that I've ever seen that, or maybe I've seen the stitch but didn't realize that that's what it was. If you have a good image of it, if you shoot it over in a message, I will definitely check it out for you, Della. Yes?
I'm almost done.
Yeah, I'm almost done, buddy.
Okay.
Are you guys getting along upstairs?
Yeah, and I just ate breakfast.
You ate well, that's not breakfast then. That's more like brunch.
Okay.
What'd you have?
Toast.
You just had toast?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, goodbye.
Goodbye. I love you. Hmm. This one. There we go. Pretty sure we started with one on this row. And the chain one. So chain one. Skip that last one there. Oh, that was weird. That's how my piece is looking so far. And the way that, so I created squares with it. This was the first square that I created. And if you're wondering, like, how many rows do you need to have something be a square? And I'm going to show you guys my tip real quick. As I'm crocheting along, I just fold it in half because a square should line up pretty, pretty evenly on all sides. So if I wanted to see how close I was here to creating a square, or if I was even close, okay, tail, get out of my way, which I can just tell by looking, we're still very much a rectangle, but I would bring it up along the edge here that should match up. And if you flip your work over, you're going to be able to see approximately like how many more rows you're going to need until, this corner here is evenly going to match up with that corner. That's how you'll know it'll be square. I don't even know how many rows, let's see, in total for this. And these rows are so easy to count. You could count up by the spaces, but I'm just going to count by the double crochets, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. So I did a total of 19 rows for this to be square. I'm guessing it's going to be pretty similar to whatever, if you're following, if your start chain was the 41, like I did, then no matter the size of the hook or fiber that you're using, it should work up that way. I think I'll finish this descent, and then I'm going to hop off of here. It's like a miracle that my kids aren't at each other's throats. I'm feeling super proud of them. So again, we started with 1. We're going to be working a descent, but from the beginning, it looks like a buildup. So there's our standing double crochet. Always working into the chain spaces in this pattern. Chain spaces, or like I've been calling them, the back bumps of your chains. Chain 2, skip the next 2. We're working a descent, so 6 double crochet into our next 6 stitches. I can hear my daughter up there bringing the hammer down. She's going to be such a little leader. Spoiler alert, Layla, counting doesn't actually work. I hear her up there counting. I want to be like, how many times has that been effective for me? Like hardly any, unless the whole point is to get my irritation up. Like if your brothers don't listen to my counting, what makes you think that they're even going to hear it when you count? You can start to see that little bit of yellow that's all scraggly. Laverna, to get rid of the comments, what you do is you just slightly put your finger on your screen like this, and you'll just swipe them. I don't know if it's to the right or to the left, but just swipe your screen and it should get rid of the comments for you. Yeah, I think that this pattern would make a beautiful shawl if that's what you guys are talking about. I missed the comment because I see that Tammy's replying to Roletta. So I'm going to work out 2 more rows with you guys, and then I'm going to have to address the crashes happening above my head. What's up, buddy? As long as it's not anything inappropriate, yes, you can. All right, I'm just about done, buddy. Going down here, 1, 2, 4. Always working into those chain spaces. Get the 4 double crochet worked out here. We're on the descent. We're going to skip 2, do a double crochet into the next 2. Building this next one up. And remember, when you're building them up, you're going to do however many double crochets when you come to the chain spaces. So I'll know I've completed all that I need to for this little object or this diamond when I reach the end of those chains. Skipping 2. Double crocheting in 2. Roletta's asking, is that 3-ply? And I believe that this is actually a 5-ply yarn. If you're unsure what that is, she's referring to how many strains of yarn are in the actual, like you can kind of see it here. It's what makes the gradient change. So delicate's the wrong word, but so gradual is because they change the color one thread at a time. And I'm pretty sure if you twist it, you can see that there are, I believe it's 5. I think it's 5. Maybe it's more. Nope, it's definitely 5. I've got 3 red and 2 like light orange. Maybe that's 3. Geez, I don't even know. It's a lot. More than 3, that's for sure. Hello, Soup. Soup is my cat, one of them. Hi, buddy. Yes, I hear you and I see you. Oh my goodness. I knew that was going to happen. Soup. So my cat really likes attention. Probably more so than my kids. It's a good thing this is pretty much over. He's like, you put that yarn down and you pay attention to me. Check this dude out, you guys. He just comes and makes himself completely comfortable because this is the Soup show, right? Hi, buddy. I love my cats. I'm, one of those crazy cat lovers. And, I don't even care. Love little fur babies. I'm a lover of all things living. So I think since that one's complete, I'm probably going to end the tutorial here, you guys, unless there's any questions. But I feel like I've covered most of the ground, you know, as far as this combo is concerned, but I do like to just hang out for just a second, see if anybody has anything. Maybe I'll flip it around just for a second. Hello guys. See if I missed anything. Got me and little super de duper. He's my one-eared, tail missing, his little nubbin. This is our rescue baby, and I do love him, but he's got some attachment issues where if he doesn't know where I'm at, he's like freaking out. Ah, thanks, Shirley. He is a sweetheart. Huh, Soup. I don't see anybody asking any questions. If you want to see my fabulous yarn, I have lots and lots and lots of it. Some might say I'm yarn obsessed. I just like to have options and variety. Hi, Margaret. Thank you. And Shirley, top fan, jumping on to say hello. Now I'm basically just showing off my kitty, though. He deserves all the spotlight. He demands attention. And you guys, he's super special because, let me just show you. I don't know if he'll be willing to show. He is a double, he's a double polydactyl, which means he's got extra toes on both sides. So it's like when he reaches for you, it's kind of like he has thumbs. Do you see it? I had to turn him funny. But randomly, you know, like if I'm in the bathroom or something, he sticks his furry little human looking, well, not human, but it does look like he has thumbs. He'll stick it under there and try to, you know, swipe at you. But here's my handsome. I'm going to hop off of here, go make my human children some food. If there's a stitch tutorial that you would like to learn that you've been struggling with, please don't hesitate to drop it in the comments. If you haven't already, please sign up for my newsletter. I don't send one out real regularly, but when I do, it's always information on giveaways and different types of tutorials and things like that that are coming up. But that's where I always release information on giveaways first, is on my newsletter, which you can sign up for that at www.mynaughtyhobby.com, just like you see here on the website. I'm hopping off of here though, you guys. I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, that you've got a hook in your hand, a smile on your face, and I can't wait until we get to catch up again. So take care until next time, you guys. Happy hooking. See ya.